to another episode of Cherish TV. Today we are hitting one of the hottest topics out there right now, especially in California. We're looking at how involved should our schools be in educating our children around sex and sexual things. So, Becky, you have a lot to say on this. Why don't we start with you?
I do. I first want to say that I do believe the first foundation of understanding around sex and reproduction and all that does need to be taking place in the home. I know we had that conversation with my 10-year-old when he was 10, and we read a really amazing book that I'll give everybody the resource later. So I do, that's the hope, but I understand that that doesn't always happen.
It's not
so
always
because
the
not
reality.
every family is responsible in parenting their children around sex education, I personally as a parent am comfortable with the schools teaching around the physical anatomy of bodies, how the reproduction system works, how babies are physically made. I'm comfortable with hearing, because I think they need to know that, because if they don't know that's how babies are made, then all of a sudden they, you know, watch something inappropriate on television, then they go experiment. They have no idea the consequences that could come. I'm also comfortable with, and absolutely think it's necessary to share around the risk involved with sexual activity, the STDs and everything like that, because kids need to know if they're not hearing it at home. So I'm actually comfortable with those things. What I'm not comfortable with is transitioning from the physical anatomy, the biological process of how babies are made, or into a curriculum that I believe what we're seeing now is very over-sexualized, and a curriculum that's riddled with an agenda. That's what I'm not comfortable with.
And a strong bias. And I know, Jessica, for you, you've been very heavily engaged in your children's school. You have a teenage son who goes to a public school. So just tell us a little bit about your thoughts.
Yeah, so definitely we've been talking about it a lot in our house, because actually in San Diego County, there's been a lot of scrutiny and issues, rightfully so, with parents calling out San Diego Unified and Oceanside Unified School Districts for implementing recently a curriculum that is very, very provocative. Just pushing an agenda that may not agree with everybody's beliefs and values. And the worst part of it all is that parents have no idea what's being taught in this curriculum. And as a parent, it's our responsibility to teach our children these things. And if we don't, the government is going to step in right away and continue to mandate laws that require things taught in schools. So the biggest issue we are seeing now is that although in California they're saying the main topics that need to be covered in this curriculum are how to prevent and educate kids on unintended pregnancies, HIV, and sexually transmitted infections. But along with that, they're pushing discussing different types of genders, which there is a whole list of genders they're teaching that I don't even know as a 32-year-old adult what the difference are, and trying to explain that to a 6th grader. I mean, the list is
And it's
long.
starting even earlier, isn't it, Jessica?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not even just 6th graders. I think as young as kindergarten now, they're implementing a level of sex, or what they're calling sex education.
So what are some of the things that are in the curriculum that parents may want to hear? Like, what is my kid being taught? Like, can you tell us some of those things?
So it's pretty, it's upsetting and shocking, actually, that not only are they discussing, you know, how to have safe sex and the different types of sex, oral.
With a 6th grader?
With a 6th grader. Oral, anal, and vaginal sex, but they're also discussing pornography and saying that it's completely and perfectly normal.
For what ages? Where are they presenting this?
Well, they're starting this at 6th grade. So California mandates that kids be taught at least 1 year in middle school and 1 year in high school sexual education. And in San Diego, Oceanside and San Diego Unified School Districts have actually used a curriculum that speaks to kids and promotes pornography as perfectly normal. And they try to use cartoons in a way to reach younger children, where they'll have 2 naked cartoons, and one of them relating to pornography. The cartoons were Julie Mellons and Miles Long. And they were predicting, they were showing sexual...
Quite a lot of innuendo in those
And the girl's like, oh, that's a really big cucumber. And like, oh wait, that's not a cucumber. And it's like, why are we teaching
and at what age
to
is this?
6th grade.
So if I was a parent with a 6th grade child at that school and I didn't make any efforts to find out what my child was being taught, that they would be getting this information.
They're being encouraged that pornography is normal at the age of even 10, I believe.
Totally,
The
completely
thing I feel
perfectly
like
normal.
The thing that I feel like is so sad as well, what you're saying, it's interesting that back when I was like in 5th grade, I remember learning about like how to put on deodorant, how to handle your monthly cycle. Yeah, right, and how much it's changed.
Yes.
I think it's also very interesting how the schools now, because of the epidemic that's actually happening in culture with kids actually being exposed to pornography so young, the schools are working backwards in the wrong way, I feel like, where because they're seeing such a problem, they're like, oh, well, this is a problem that this kindergartner is seeing pornography, we'll actually normalize it, when really it shouldn't be that way. But I can see now, not that it's right, where the school's coming from, they're just coming from it the wrong way because they're normalizing a problem versus trying to fix it, in my opinion.
You know, it's interesting because I went out, this is a topic that I probably, you know, wouldn't consider I'm an expert on. I'm
But you have
licensed,
3 kids
I have
in
3 kids in public education.
Yeah.
But I did look at the curriculum online and I didn't see the cartoons in the 6th grade.
Okay.
And
So-
it's different, well, it's different, districts have different curriculum.
Yeah, so I was at the San Diego
Okay.
Unified.
Right.
But so some of this I do think we have to go and ask, you know, what is going on. But let me back up because I do have 3 kids that I have chosen to go to public school. Here's my thought. We're all homeschooling parents.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of us are responsible for the education of our kids. Some of us delegate that out to Christian schools to do some of that part, and some of us delegate it out to public school.
Well said.
But what I will say is I met with a young man just yesterday, and he had been so sheltered from all of the conversations
Okay.
that when he left and he started going to college,
His mind
now all of
blown.
a sudden he's like doubting everything.
Right.
So I don't
Totally.
doubt just this part of sex education. I'm doubting every other story I've ever been told by my Christian family.
So having that conversation with a parent about what's out there.
So this is my wife and I's, we believe that we should be the first ones to talk about it. And if we do it, then we're going to have the loudest, most important voice in their lives.
Right.
And so just taking, like you're saying, taking responsibility. And then I just had a story when I was in, so my parents were kind of similar. We didn't have any television, couldn't watch television, couldn't even go to sports.
Oh, that's
couldn't.
intense.
Oh yeah, no movies, anything. So completely sheltered. Well, I remember being a little late '70s kid, and everyone was playing with Star Wars.
And you didn't even know what it was.
So I'm playing with the Star Wars toys, but I have no idea which characters go together because I had no context. I was so aloof.
Wow.
So to me, sometimes allowing your children to experience, this is stuff their peers are going to be talking about.
Yeah. Yep.
So you're not going to be, they're going to learn this stuff. Now, I'm not saying I agree with this. Sex education to me is a political football. It's whoever, you know, is winning the political office, and that is a bummer. But it's saying we don't have to be afraid. Even if my kids are hearing this, I still can develop a relationship that we can, well, what do you think about that? Well, here's what the Bible says about that.
Because you've established that in your home, and I think being the first voice is so important because studies will tell us that it's the first voice that they will hold everything, so that becomes their foundation of truth.
Right.
So now everything they hear, they'll be like, well, no, but it's
Let's bring
actually,
it into-
so we can't let the world be the first voice that our kids hear. And another thing that I wanted to maybe throw back to Jessica is because why we say, you know, this sex curriculum is very agenda driven. It's because, you know, I know the first thing they open up with is having kids like really, you know, am I a boy? Am I a girl? Gender identity. And so we understand that less than 1% of the population struggles with that. Yet, so less than 1%, even way lower than that, struggle with that. Yet, we're going to subject 100% of the kids to questioning, and now, so we have 1% that are less that are confused, but now we're going to bring confusion into 100% of children. That's why I say I'm not for the agenda-driven sex curriculum.
So how do you, how did you get involved? Number one, I suppose, did your son come home with a whole lot of questions, or how did this start for you?
Yeah, so we are, in our home, like, we try to stay pretty involved with our local politics, what's going on in our state and what's going on in our country, and about a year ago.
You guys are so good at that. She's always texting me, have you heard about this? I'm like, Because if you told me, yes, I have.
Well, it's like it's sad because it's like you want to be in the
citizen.
know, but it's also like very saddening because you're like, I cannot believe that schools are teaching these things to our children. And it's not even like these are like STDs that you can get in ways of preventing it, but it's so far out there that even as a parent, if I do my job in teaching my children what I think is necessary for them to know about, to be safe, and you know, they are going way and above and beyond that it's just like, you have to be proactive. You have to be a parent that reads the curriculum, that goes to the district's website, the school website. And if you see stuff that you don't like, you need to go to your school boards. You need to go and if you know someone who's thinking about running for a school board,
get on a school board.
Help support them. Like, get people behind them, because honestly, these things are going right under the radar. I was just going to give you a quick example. You know, one of the mandates is that we need to have in schools teach and knowledge kids on ways they can prevent having STIs passed to one another. And they made a graph that showed high risk for STIs, low risk, and no risk. And I'll just read what's in the no risk. So they're basically teaching kids, just so you know, if you do these things, you're not at risk for getting an STI. These include bathing together, kissing on the lips, mutual masturbation, solo masturbation, and holding hands. I think mutual masturbation and holding hands are like on the opposite end of the spectrum.
Right, exactly.
So like your kid might be like,
so they're saying,
bathing
hey,
together?
feel free, do all these things. It's no risk to you, let alone the fact that they're not emotionally capable to handle that type of relationship.
And what bathing together would lead to, you know, what teenager has the self-control.
So there's no risk in bathing together. Really? Where's that going to lead? Exactly. Now you're in the high risk category, people.
As a parent, I'm not thinking I need to remind my
and you know what's not on there? Abstinence. Abstinence. Save yourself for marriage. You know, we have to wrap up. We're done with another episode of Cherish TV, but I want to thank you, and I want to end with this. Don't be passive when it comes to your kids.
That's right.
Be the first voice in their ears about how they were created, God's purpose and intent for their lives, for their sexuality, and I'm telling you, they'll grow up right. Have a great day.
Who can find a virtuous woman? For her worth is far above rubies. She seeks wool and flax, and willingly works with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She also rises while it is yet night, and provides food for her household. She girds herself with strength, and her lamp does not go out by night. She stretches out her hands to the distaff, and her hand holds the spindle. She extends her hand to the poor. Yes, she reaches out her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Strength and honor are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. Whoa!